Welcome back to another San Diego Prep Insider. Christian Pedersen, joined for the first time this football season by Bodie DeSilva, aka SD Preps. He's here on behalf of SB Live Sports, the official digital content provider of all things CIF sports, all things high school sports, the photography, the video, like the everything that is included everywhere. They are top notch. They are the best. Bodie is kind enough to join us every week to talk some high school football. Make sure, though, you go check out that everything that he is doing. Like I said, you can follow him on social at SD Preps, or you can follow them at SB Live CA. Bodie, the top 10, the power rankings, the player rankings, the numbers, the lists. There's a lot of this, that, and the other that people can talk about. But I think because you are somebody who is brave enough and bold enough to come on publicly and discuss top 10 rankings for teams. You do it for a living for Scorebook. You are braver than me. So I would like to have that be, let's have that be the thing that we first talk about this high school football season. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to get, because your top 10 has not come out yet. Can we do maybe the radio tease if you give some OLI and then like 10 through 6?
Yeah, and I think the only thing better than top 10 rankings or preseason top 10 rankings where there's definitely, and there's others out there, and I think
it's me shoving the hot potato into your hand. Yes.
some teams I'm higher on and some teams I'm lower on, and I'm sure they'll both make me look corrected at some point 3 weeks into the season when someone's 3-0 that I didn't rank and someone's 0-3 that I did rank. But
yes,
it's what makes it fun in the off season of figuring out what guys are going to step up and what returners made that next big jump and who's the JV guy that's going to have a breakout varsity season and who's the quarterback we didn't know about that by the end of the year puts himself in the all CIF mix. So El Camino is a team I'm really interested in. I got to see them in the playoffs last year. They got a big, I guess we'll call it an upset win. Anytime you're on the road in the playoffs, they went into Helix and grabbed a last, I believe it was last minute win last year. They have a returning quarterback in Carson Howard. That's a team I'm really interested to see early on. I believe they're going to start, all these schedules are jumbled in my head, but I believe they have a southern section opponent early on that I always like to see. It seems like we have a lot of those early on this year. San Clemente's a team that teams are always starting off with. I know Oceanside's going up to San Juan Hills, so love those type of games early on. Mission Hills is another team I'm very interested in that same league. We know Carlsbad's at the top of this league that has been changed around a little bit, but at who's this team that can kind of make this big next run at Carlsbad this season? Is it Mission Hills? Is it a La Costa Canyon? How do Poway and Torrey Pines fare in that group as well? So just looking within Cathedral Catholic's one that I'm curious to see how they do. I think they're a little down maybe, but are they still in that top 10? Their top would-be returner, Madden Framo, is now headed off to Jay Sarah, so he's no longer there, but it's also a Cathedral team that they've been in the mix for so long now. It's not someone that you can really take lightly that way. Madison, someone that was in the open division last year, didn't finish the season how they wanted. A lot of returners, I think, defensively. Who are the guys offensively that are going to step up there? And for me, a team that always doesn't bring a quarterback back, I'm always just going to have some question marks there. Fair or not fair, but that's just kind of how I look at it that way. Modern Day Catholic, a team that has won 2 straight CIF titles and state titles, but there's been movement there. They've graduated some top players offensively and defensively. They still bring some back. They obviously have to replace their offensive coordinator. Verlaine is now over at Mount Miguel as the head coach. So just kind of what's Modern Day Catholic going to look like, because they start off their season at Cathedral and at Carlsbad. So not too many teams are going to have to start that way.
Are we cruising towards Carlsbad Lincoln as the de facto 1-2 until we get a couple weeks into this and have any more sort of sample size? Like, yeah, there's nobody that
I think that's probably the easy answer, but it's not some slam dunk where I'd be shocked if someone were to pick one of those off from the top.
So stay tuned. 1 week from now, you will figure out on SB Live Sports the combination of those two teams won 2, and then 8 of the other teams that Bodie listed off in some form. Bodie, a couple of teams that I heard you talk about, I know that we will talk about them a ton this season, so I'm not going to waste people's time double talking and retreading ground. I will say Granite Hills, I'm very interested in. They brought back a lot of exciting pieces. They're moving up into D1. It's always hard when you're kind of delineating top 10 versus just interesting teams to watch, because sometimes there's friendly fire. Sometimes the best play the best, and teams just have to win and lose. So, maybe they don't make open, but they have a really good season by being the 3 seed in D. I'm really interested, and I'm all in on Granite. Why not return a bunch of pieces? Helix with a senior quarterback that last year they lost a couple of wonky games here and there. They could be really good. Going down, I'm curious about Saints, just because that's year 2 of Gladnick rebuild, and this feels like maybe year 1 of, not that you want to say that like these are his kids, but like you know how it goes in transitional phases. Every time you're a little bit closer to being your guys in your roster when you make a year after year turnover the first couple of years as a head coach. So I'm really interested in what Saints can get. I'm also, though, looking at, is there anybody outside of Division 1 who could be a top 10 contender this year? And I am, maybe on Central, like if they end up being the 1 seed type thing in D2, I think Bishops always, apologies for that, I think Bishops always has a really good team. If they can stay healthy, they can encroach on that top 10. Is there anybody that you're looking at, D2, D3, D5, D5AA, any of those teams that you think could encroach in the top 10?
Yeah, I think Central is an interesting one you mentioned. They're going to play road games at Ramona, Otay Ranch. They get Granite Hills coming to them on a Thursday night, so they're definitely going to challenge themselves. I think that's a good call there. I'm interested to see what Rancho Bernardo does. It's going to be year 1 for Eric Weddle. Not that I'm expecting him to be 9-1 right away, but kind of how do they start to build? How are they going to kind of bring kids back? Because they've had some solid success in recent years. That state title team, I believe, was 7-8 years back now at this point. So it's been a little bit since they've been up with that top group. Yeah, just looking through kind of some of the other divisions here, like a Santa Fe Christian, what do they look like in Division 3? You've got Fallbrook and Palo Verde, which were the 2 that made those jumps up this year. I think Fallbrook should still be pretty strong. Palo Verde, I don't think will be strong, but it's not fair to say that for a 2-time defending champion. It's just kind of how it works. What we've talked about, they won D5, they move up. They won D4, they move up. Well, that senior class that was so strong and dominant's now gone. So
I will throw this out there with Palo Verde Valley, that their schedule looks not outrageous.
Yeah.
And sometimes teams can acknowledge that, hey, we are up now because of the math, and we need to ride the roller coaster back down, and let's not play up to where we need to win X, Y, and Z and schedule X, Y, and Z to maintain a competitive balance at D3. Like, it seems like they have a perfectly soft landing spot with that schedule this year.
Yeah, and then looking in D4, and it's kind of what we talk about in all these sports, I think baseball especially, but those bigger public schools that might be in a division that might surprise you. So you look in Division 4, a Westview, a team that it's probably the first time they've ever fallen to Division 4, maybe since the school first started enrollment wise. Mount Miguel's there. They have some talented pieces. How quickly can that kind of be put together? You expect in a couple of years it'll be better than what it is now, but there's also some returning pieces that can help them right away. Escondido is a team in Division 4. Santana, a team that's had some success in recent years. So how do those teams kind of do? I think Division 4 is one where there's several really good teams. I'm just interested to see who can kind of emerge among that group.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're still talking necessarily about top 10 at this point. We're talking a little bit more OLI, but I like Chula Vista out of D4. I think their quarterback, Isaac Bach, I was talking about him on the show earlier this week, that they got to find a couple of options to keep him relatively not just fully locked in by the defense. But yeah, he could be a really good player at that Division 4 level that could deliver some really, really big wins for Chula Vista this year. All right, Bodie, we will be back every week. We don't need to take up any more of the people's time. Tell them when they can actually get a hold of your top 10.
Yeah, I am planning to release that. I believe it'll be Monday next week. Kind of perfect
Monday
time.
of week zero.
Scrimmage, yeah, week zero, whatever we want to call it. For me, it just goes by you opening week. There's to avoid confusion there, whether you think there's 10 weeks in the season, if you count week 0, 11, whatever it may be. Opening week rankings will have games. And a lot of games Thursdays and Saturdays this year. So make sure you check schedules. I know they're the referee crews are still very much lower than they'd like to be, where they need to be. So hopefully that encourages some people that have the time and interest to get out there. But otherwise, we will enjoy several nights a week where you can go catch a game.
Very true. All right. Thank you. Monday of week zero. It's coming up. Happy scrimmage week, everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon.